the 3 problems that are in your lesson 3-2 November 2 homework, just in case you had some questions and wanted to see some examples worked out for you. The first one says, here's an equation. Draw a graph to help solve the equation and then find the solution to the equation. So here's what we're going to do this. We're going to get our equation to equal 0. So we're going to subtract, that was weird. We're going to subtract 4 from both sides to get 2x minus 6 equals 0. And so now that we are equaling 0, we can say that 2x minus 6 equals y. And we're going to come up with a table of values that we can graph. So I can make up any number I want. I'm going to make up something like -2. And if I solve this, I'm going to say 2 times -2 minus 6 equals y. So I have -4 minus 6 equals y. This would be a plus a negative, so I have -10. That y is actually a little bigger than I'm hoping for graphing, but let's try maybe, let's try -3. So I have 2 times -3. Actually, I can see that this is getting bigger, so let's just back up and not do -3. Let's do 0. Let's do 2 times 0 minus 2 equals, I did it again, minus 6. So we're using this equation right here, or this equation, equals y. So I have 0 minus 6 equals y. So -6 is y in this case. That's still actually bigger than I would want. So let's try 2. I have 2 times 2 minus 2. I did it again. Minus 6 equals y. 4 minus 6 equals y. Don't mind my dog. Is going to be -2 equals y. And I still actually am looking down this list, and I haven't actually gotten to where it's going to cross the x-intercept or the x-axis. So let's just try maybe one more number. Let's go ahead and go 4. So I have 2 times 4 minus 6 equals y. So 8, I crossed it, minus 6 equals y. That's 2 is what y is. I bet if I backed back up and put a 3, definitely more than I need to. And when you're graphing in Alex, you're going to have a nice graphing tool that's probably going to be a lot more accurate than my by hand graphing is, even on this nice graph paper. Let's see, 2 times 3 minus 6 is y, and that's going to give me 6 minus 6, which is 0. So there, this is actually going to be the number that I want, right? 3 and 0, that's going to be the x-intercept. So I'm going to put that number on here, 2, 3, and 0. Let's graph a couple more of these. How about 2 and -2? And how about 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, 1, 2. And so I can now draw my line. Even my line straightener, even with the line straightener, it's kind of wonky. But I know that the solution here is x equals 3, because this is our y-intercept. I mean, no, it must be time to quit today, so I'm getting tired. It's our x-intercept, our roots, our solution, and our 0, because that's where y equals 0. Algebraically, we could have solved this and gotten the same answer, but we are practicing seeing where the line crosses the y-axis. Number 2 says the fuel tank of a certain airplane can hold up to 400 gallons of fuel And we're going to let W be the weight of our airplane in pounds. And we're going to let F equal the total amount of fuel in the tank. And we have an equation that says this: W equals 7F plus 3,000. And it says these words: W as a function of F. And what we usually have is Y as a function of X. That's why we say the F of X equals something. And so we know that W in this case is going to be Y, and the F is going to be X. So this is like saying, just put it in a different color here. Y equals 7X plus 3,000. Sometimes mixing the variables around gets confusing, but that's what we have going on here. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about domain, which we didn't talk about in the lesson, but we can talk about it right now. Domain is what can X be? What numbers can X be? So we have to think about the situation just a little bit. So X is talking about, remember, fuel. So X is the fuel. And so we're actually talking about what can F be here. So it is the fuel. And we know that it holds up to 400 gallons of fuel. So then just common logic tells me that we could be out of fuel but not negative. So we could go from 0 to 400. And so I'm going to check that. The amount of fuel in the airplane's tank, not the weight, and the set of all real numbers from 0 to 400. Okay, the next word we want to talk about is range. So range is typically our Y. It says what can Y be? And in this case, remember, Y happens to be W. So we're not going to talk about Y, we're going to talk about W. So it is the weight of the airplane. So practically we're going to just say it's the weight of the airplane, not the fuel. And then we have to figure out the numbers to go with that. So let's use some logic here. We've got an equation, 7F W equals 7F plus 3,000. And we know that we could possibly be out of fuel. So let's see what happens to the weight of the plane if we are empty. Okay, so 7 times 0 is 0. So the weight would be 3,000. The weight of the plane, the bottom weight, is actually 3,000. Okay, and then we know we can have up to 400 gallons of fuel. So let's also figure that out. Weight equals 7 times 400 plus 3,000. So I have 28 and 2 zeros plus 3,000, which is 5,800. That would be the most my plane could actually weigh. That's actually not true because we could have some cargo, but good enough for this problem. We're going to say 3,000 to 5,800. Let's see if they have that choice, and they do. So I'm going to mark that. All right. Hopefully lots of people will watch this explanation if they don't know what domain and range are. Okay, now we're graphing a function. It's just a graphing problem. The g of x equals 2x minus 5. We are still graphing by making tables of values. We only need 2 points to plot a line, but 3 points will check your work, right? If the third one lines up, then that's a good check. So I can pick any numbers I want to. I'm going to start with 0. 2 times 0 minus 5 gives me 0 minus 5 is negative 5. And maybe I'll do 1. And so 2 minus 5 is negative 3. And then maybe I'll do 2. No reason to make the numbers complicated. And 4 minus 5 gives me negative 1. Okay. So I'm gonna have my graph. You have your graphing tool. Hopefully I've left enough room here. I'm gonna go to a different color. X is 0, and then -5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a point. And then X is 1, and then -3. 1, 2, 3. And then X is 2, and then -1. And then I'm going to connect those dots, and that's my line. All right, let me know if I can help you more.